That Xfinity Series race at Darlington National Speedway was really solid in my honest opinion. Lots of covers and goers throughout the field, lots of beating and banging for the victory, and a pretty popular driver being able to win today's race. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today we're talking about the Xfinity Series race that just concluded a few minutes ago at Darlington National Speedway, the Steakhouse Elite 200, the 9th race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series schedule, and the third or fourth of the 4 races for the Dash for Cash. Let's go ahead and talk about the race overall. So like I mentioned in this episode, I thought that today's race was really solid overall. There was a lot of covers and goers throughout the field and a lot of interesting things that happened throughout the race. So let's go ahead and talk about the beginning of this race. So starting on the pole for this race, you had AJ Allmendinger, and he actually would lead the early portions of this race. The first caution actually this race would come out on lap 5 of the event for a 3-car accident that took place between J.J. Illy, 26, Brandon Dovick, and Joe Graf Jr. Joe Graf Jr. decided to try to send it 3 wide into turn number 2, which really wasn't that smart in my honest opinion. Also, J.J. Illy came up as well. And there was a 3-car wreck that would basically hurt those guys' chances of running up front throughout the race. We then go back racing on lap 8 of this event. We actually stayed green for a couple laps, and then the next caution series will come out once again for the 26-car Brandon Dovick once again. He actually would have a right front or a rear tire that would end up going down. He would go onto the outside wall, and that would bring out the second caution of this race. We would then go back racing for a few more laps, and then the competition caution would come out in this race. And I think there was some strategy that took place. I don't remember exactly, but there's some strategy, I think, that ended up taking place. We then go back racing on lap 26 race, and the race had actually stayed pretty much green throughout the end of stage number 1. One of the big things that was happening throughout this, which I found really awesome to see, was Tommy Joe Martin's charge up to the front. Tommy Joe came on pit road to get some fresh tires to try to see if he can strategize and get some extra points. He drove his way all the way up to 5th place at the end of the stage. Meanwhile, there actually would be a pretty solid battle for the end of the stage, but what ended up happening coming to the end of the stage, was Noah Gragson looked like he was going to have an opportunity to basically pass Austin, but on the last lap of stage number 1, Matt Mills ended up spinning down the front stretch. He got a lot of damage, and he would unfortunately follow the race, bringing out the caution in the stage. That means Austin Cindric was able to win stage 1 in this event with Noah Gragson coming runner-up in the stage, and also Harrison Burton finishing 3rd, Daniel Hummer finishing 4th in the stage, Tommy Joe Martin's 5th, 16 AJ Allmendinger finishing 6th, 7 would be Meister, 8th would be Justin Allgaier, 9th would be Ty Gibbs, who had to start 29th. He drove up to 9th, and then Michael Annett would finish 10th in the first stage. We then go back racing on lap 53 of this event, and actually during this time, Tommy Joe Martin, who was actually running in the top 15, fell back a little bit because his tires basically equaled out. He kind of fell back. Actually, he would end up having a tire go down. He wouldn't fall out of this race completely, but after having such a really good start race, he would end up having a tire go down. And the next caution in this race will come out on lap 84 with around 70 laps to go into this event, which is getting closer to the end of stage number 2. There will be an incident between a 78 Jesse Little and Riley Herbst. Jesse Little got up into Riley Herbst a little bit. Riley Herbst was absolutely struggling throughout the race, and Jesse Little was actually starting to make his way up to the front. And then Jesse Little got a little bit sideways going to turn number 1. He drifted up and collected Jeffrey Hurt. Both those cars, though, were able to continue on throughout the race. And then we go back racing with 4 laps to go. With actually some strategy that would take place. Drivers like Harrison Burton, all of Junior Motorsports, and a couple other drivers, I think like Ty Gibbs also came down pit road. Quite a few drivers would come down pit road and try to basically, at this point, strategize in this race. And then there was actually a pretty solid battle at the end. Actually, what ended up happening at this point was there was some contact between Brandon Jones and AJ. Basically, AJ got into the back of Brandon Jones. Looked like he may have slid up in front of him, and AJ wasn't really having of it. I think it was not intentional, to be honest with you. But he got into Brandon Jones. He actually would slide down and hit Ty Gibbs, though the caution would not come out. And then the finish was really solid, in my opinion. It looked like AJ was going to for sure have the win in stage number 2. And then Harrison Burton, who had fresh tires, who came down pit road, he basically takes the win. And Noah Gragson, who started in the back as well, he drove up and looked like Noah's maybe going to have a chance to get up there, but he really didn't have anything for it. But Harrison Burton would come off the corner, and he would steal the stage win here at Darlington National Speedway. With Noah Gragson runner-up, AJ got 3rd. Josh Berry finished 4th in the stage. Ryan C got 5th. The 10 of Jeb Burton 6th. Michael Annett 7th. Justin Allgaier 8th. Austin Cindric and Brett Moffitt finished 10th in the stage. Then we go back racing for the final stage of this race with around 47 laps to go, and there would be a lot of great racing overall. At this point, Noah Gragson had arguably the best car at the end of this run. It looked like he was basically going to run away with this thing, and he actually had a really strong car, and he actually would take the race lead. And then the next caution in this race will come out with around 20 stops to go in this race, and it's in between Joe Graf Jr. and Greg Galding. It looked like Joe Graf Jr. was not happy with Greg Galding, and payback actually would ensue from Martinsville. Remember Martinsville and those two had an incident after racing. There was a punching contest that ended up happening after Martinsville. Well, it looks like Joe Graf Jr. got retaliation on Greg Galding and took him out with around 20 laps to go in this race. We then go back racing on with around 15 to 16 laps to go in this race. Actually, there would be some cars that came down pit road to get fresh tires. Among those would be Ty Gibbs, Harrison Burton, among others, would come down pit road to strategize up. And Ty Gibbs actually ended up getting a speeding penalty, so this really would take him out of contention. Ty Gibbs had a pretty solid car overall on that run, and that ended up happening. On the ensuing restart, though, Josh Berry was actually able to get the race. I believe Josh Berry was actually able to get the race lead from Justin Allgaier. It looked like he was actually going to be able to hold the race lead up to this point. And then, with around 15 laps to go, Joe Graf Jr. would have a tire go down, I believe, in turn number 4. And this would take him completely out of contention of this race and take him out of the race overall. We then go back racing with around 10 laps to go, and Justin Allgaier was able to beat Josh Berry and was able to hold the race lead. It looked like Justin Allgaier was going to have to hold off Josh Berry. It looked like Josh Berry was going to have something for him at the end of the run. And then with around 6 laps to go in this race, Ryan Vargas in the 6 having a really pretty solid run for his standards where he should be running. He had a pretty solid run going in the number 6. And then he was spin off coming off of turn number 2. Looked like he had gotten a little bit sideways. Maybe some contact happened as well going off of turn 2. But he was spinning out, bringing out the caution. And with 2 laps to go, more cars would come down pit road, including Harrison Burton. A couple other guys also would come down pit road to try to get tires. I really never understood this call, to be honest with you, to come down pit road, especially with 2 laps to go. Because even if you're going to be back in like 19th or 20th place, I really never understood the call of coming down pit road in this race. We then go back racing to 2 laps to go, and Justin Allgaier was actually able to get the race lead from Brandon Jones and Josh Berry, and he would actually end up driving away up to the front. Meanwhile, the guys like Ty Gibbs and Harrison Burton, who had basically fresh tires, they were trying to charge away up to the front, and actually on the white flag as well, while Justin Allgaier was basically cruising to victory lane at this point, there was actually an incident place on the backstretch on the white flag. It looked like there was an incident between Riley Herbst and Austin. They would basically end up having issues in the race with some problems that would end up taking place. Basically, he would go up to the track and get a lot of damage, have to stop on the front stretch. Riley Herbst would also get involved in their big crash. Meanwhile, as they were coming off the final corner, Justin Allgaier comes off the final corner, and he wins the throwback race in the Xfinity Series and gets the second win of the 2021 season in that number 7 car, the GM Goodwrench throwback. Justin Allgaier, like I mentioned, becomes the second driver to win multiple races this year, and he picks up the win here at Darlington International Speedway. Do I think that Justin Allgaier overall had the fastest car in this race? No, I think that there were other cars that were faster overall, but that's one thing about this race I really, really enjoyed was the comers and goers aspect, and really there wasn't one dominant car, but Justin Allgaier had a pretty solid day overall, and he deserves the win in my honest opinion. So huge congratulations to Justin Allgaier on winning today's Xfinity Series race and winning his second race of 2021. So let's go through the race results of today's race. So Justin Allgaier wins today's race. Josh Berry with another very strong run in second place. Great run for Josh Berry today. Brandon Jones finished his third. Brandon Jones had a decent run today. He was kind of around that 10th to 15th place range early in the run, but he started coming in late and gets a third place run. Great run for Brandon Jones. It's been quite quiet this year. He gets a third place finish in today's race. Fourth place for Noah Gragson. I think Noah objectively had the best car overall in the race. He was my pick coming into this event, but unfortunately the late race restarts kind of cost him in the end of the day, and Noah Gragson ended up finishing fourth, though, in today's race. Gets a fourth place run. Another solid top 5, and he also wins the Dash for Cash, so he gets another $100,000. Third time he's won the Dash for Cash, so he's won $300,000 overall. Daniel Hemrick finished his 5th. I think Daniel Hemrick overall had a solid performance overall in this race. He actually probably had overall a really strong car early run too, but he actually had to come down pit road basically because he had a flat tire on the lap with caution before A.J. Allmendinger said something about that, and he had to come down pit road to basically end up getting fresh tires because he had issues. But he bounced back to 5th place where he also had to go to the tail end of the longest line at this point because he basically had that flat tire, came down pit road when the pit lights, basically the lights on the pit road were basically turned red. He couldn't come down pit road. He got basically a tail end penalty for that, but he finished 5th in today's race. So solid run for Daniel Hemrick today. Nice bounce back for him for sure. Jeremy Clements finished at 6th. Another solid top 10 run for Jeremy Clements today. I don't think he had the best car overall. He had a pretty decent car, in my honest opinion. His car kind of fell back early in the run, but he brought the same car he had at Atlanta and gets a top 10. Great run for Jeremy Clements at the end of the day. Michael Annett finished at 7th, and that really awesome Gatorade throwback to Dale Waltrip finished 7th. Solid run for Michael Annett today. Brett Moffitt finished his 8th. 9th place for Ryan Segan. Alex LeBay gets a top 10. Great run finish for Alex LeBay today. Harrison Burton, who had a very strong car as well this race, unfortunately, he could really never get back up there with the fresh tires. He finishes 11th. Landon Castle finishes 12th. AJ Allmendinger finishes 13th in today's race. He also came down pit road to get fresh tires at the end of the race. Justin Haley finishes 14th. 15th place for Tommy Joe Martins. Bounces back to top 15. Finishes despite basically having a tire go down early in the race. He finishes 15th. Ryan Ellis finishes 16th, solid run for him. David Starr finished 17th. Ty Gibbs gets his first finish outside the top 5. Ty Gibbs basically had 2 speeding penalties, kind of did himself in with a couple of those speeding penalties, but he finishes 18th in today's race. Meisner finishes 19th. Jeb Burr finished 20th. Tanner Barrio finished 21st. 22nd place for J.G. Ely. 23rd place goes to Timmy Hill. 24th place for Brandon Brown. 25th place goes to Bailey Curry. 26th for B.J. McLeod. 27th place for Ryan Vargas. 28th for Riley Herbst. Let's talk about Riley Herbst for a minute. Riley Herbst absolutely was horrible in this race. He absolutely struggled. He really should have finished almost back there, in my honest opinion, because Riley Herbst really ran most of the day from 18th to 20th. He was 1 point in the top 5 because of strategy, of course. But that's just remember, that is the same car that Chase Briscoe had last year, and Chase Briscoe dominated both races and probably could have won both races. He won the spring race last year, and it's the same car that he had last year, and Riley finished 28th, and he's outside of the playoffs right now. Absolutely disappointing and ridiculous for a guy who's in the same car as basically Chase Briscoe had last year. Colby Hour finishes 29th in today's race. Austin Hendrick finishes 30th. Jeff Renard finishes 31st. Also, Austin Hendrick, after that damage, he finished 30th. Austin Hendrick had a top 5 car most of the day, but he finishes 30th in today's race. Just a little 32nd, 33rd for Kyle Weathering, 34th for Matt Jaskell. 35th place goes to Jay Buford. 36th place finish for Bailey Curry. 36th for Brandon Gove, 37th for Joe Graff Jr., 38th for Greg Galding, finishing 39th is Josh Williams, and finishing last in today's race will be Matt Mills. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the point standings for the race here at Darlington International Speedway. So right now, looking at the standings, Austin Hendrick right now is the point leader. He has a 39 points lead over Daniel Hemrick. He's locked in the playoffs with his 2 wins so far. Harrison Burns sits third in the points with the point standing 6-7 back. AJ Allmendinger sits 92 points back right now. There's a tie for 5th place between Jeb Burton and Justin Haley, who are 94 points back. Noah Grayson currently sits 7th in the points, 118 back. Justin Allgaier, who won today's race, he sits 123rd back and 8th place in the points. Meisner sits 9th in the points, 125 back. Jeremy Clements sits 10th points, currently 134 back, which he's been really solid, one of the most impressive to watch this year. 11th place is Brandon Jones, he sits 154 back, and Michael Annette currently sits last in the playoff standings, 176 back. Brandon Brown currently sits 6 points behind the cutoff line after not such a great run. He's 6 points back behind the cutoff line of Michael Annette. Riley Herbst is really awful running this race. He sits basically 25 points back. Josh Berry is sitting right now currently 15th in the standings, 218 back, tied with Tommy Joe Martins at this point, who are 218 back. So both those guys still have a shot to make the playoffs right now, and those guys are really in contention for the playoffs, except Josh Berry, who really is not fighting for the championship overall. So now let's go ahead and talk about the race and give you my score for today's race here at Darlington National Speedway for the Xfinity Series. I have said that this race is definitely better than the Truck Series race yesterday, especially after all the chaos and the craziness that happened in the Truck Series. I think that this race was a lot more calmer and a lot more smooth, but also intense at the same time as well. And what I really enjoyed about this race as well, in my honest opinion, was the fact that you really never knew who was going to win this race. You thought at points that Daniel Hemrick was going to run away with this thing. You thought Noah Gragson was going to run away with this thing. You thought AJ was going to run away with this thing. You thought Austin Cindric was going to run away with this thing. This race was so tough to tell who really was going to run away with this thing. So that's what I really enjoyed about this race. At the end of the day, Justin Allgaier came across the line and was able to score the victory in today's race. So my honest opinion, my honest score for today's race here at Darlington, unlike the Truck Series, which I really couldn't score, I'd probably give it 7 or 8 out in the Truck Series race, in my honest opinion. But today's Xfinity Series race, the score that I'm giving overall for today's race, I'm going to give today's Xfinity Series race at Darlington National Speedway overall a 9 out of 10. Very solid race overall. There were points of the race kind of dragged on. It was hard to pass at times, and people had pretty overall big leads overall. But the restarts was absolutely crazy, and at points we saw some very good solid battles overall. And overall, a decent finish, in my honest opinion. I'm giving today's Darlington Xfinity Series race a 9 out of 10 overall. The next race for the Xfinity Series is next weekend at Dover National Speedway. We're headed to the 1 mile track, the Monster Mile. We might see some chaos, we might see some craziness, and we might overall see a boring race at Dover. We'll have to see what happens. But next week, we're headed to Dover National Speedway on the Monster Mile. So, anyway, that is giving you for today's NASCAR Xfinity Series race review from Darlington International Speedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications so you be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's race. Let me know your score below in the comments, and let me know your congratulations for Justin Allgaier in the comments below on him winning today's race. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.